Welcome back to another episode of the South by East podcast, where we discuss everything from scripture, music, culture, and in between. Brail, what do we have today?
Man, this is a good one, man. I think you shared this interview with me a little while ago, and man, it really hit on some things. So this is Roy Wood Jr. on Club Shay Shay podcast, and he really gets into some deep territory as he talks about kind of his last moments with his dad. And I think there's some things that we're gonna pull out of that here today. So let's look at this clip and we'll talk.
The last conversation I had with my dad, I make him a baked potato and I give it to him. He takes a nibble. After about an hour, he give it back. He ain't really touched it. Appetite gone. And he looks at it. He looks at me. He goes, "I did all right, didn't I?" And I look at the baked potato. "Oh, yeah, you did all right. I'm lying, but all right." About a month later, he dies, and my older sister Brenda, she comes up to me. "Daddy loved you, and I know you may not have always felt that, but Daddy loved you. And no matter what, just remember, he did the best he could." And that shit hit me like a Mack truck, bro. Like, he asked me, I did all right. He wasn't asking about the baked potato. He was asking me how he did with raising me. I missed the window, bro.
Man, it's a good interview. It's a good clip. Even more, the clip that we share is 4.5 minutes. But all I could think about, man, was when I leave, I don't want my kids thinking about the things that they should have said to me before I went. He had some, he talked through where he was at, and I just kept thinking, I was like, man, the thing that you wish you had said to your dad. I was thinking he was going to say, like, "Oh, I wish I could tell him, his last moments, how much I loved him, or I wish I could tell him how much I remember this, or even that he did all right." He's like, "Man, I wanted to give my dad some correction. I wanted to give," and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm like, at the end of my life, I don't want that to be what my kids are thinking about, because I didn't provide the space.
I back the conversation up a little bit further. One of the things we say quite often, mantra of our team, is clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Mm-hmm. There had to be something relationally that happened. And he goes into some of this, though, where the weight of a question of how I did raising you at the end of my life can be confused with how I did with trying to eat a meal that you prepared for me. Right. Man, like, those two things should never be on the plate together, so to speak.
Right.
And I want to live in a way where I'm not looking for a one-sentence reply from my kids to understand how I've done in journeying with them.
Yeah.
And that looks different in different ways, man. And there's always this thing. And me and you both have stories of the critique and different things of that nature with our fathers, and just those conversations. And we're in a different spot with a lot of stuff. But I'm just like, man, to be in a spot where there's no clarity in what's being asked also. And I want to, here's the deal. I believe the legacy type of conversation shouldn't be a talk. We should regard those in the same way as when we start talking about sex with our kids. One of the things when I was a youth pastor, I used to always tell parents, there should not be a sex talk. There should be a sex conversation that is an ongoing conversation.
Yep.
And that I believe you have to continuously pour into the relationships and have that open dialogue. In a way, yesterday, me and my wife surprised our kids by we were going to take them roller skating. They didn't even know. They still didn't know. At this point, I had gotten home, and two of my kids just said, "Dad, can I have a hug?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And they were like, "Man, well, I miss you today at school." And that's like a refrain where someone's like, "Hey, can I just have a hug? I just miss you. I was at school today, missed you, And I was like, "Sure." And I was like, "Put on your shoes," and different things of that nature. And we went about, and we still didn't tell them, because if you got small kids, then you don't tell them about where you're going before you're going, because you get annoyed, then you don't want to go because they keep asking about it.
Yep.
So they didn't know until we pulled into the parking lot that we were going roller skating last night, and so I think it has to be an ongoing deal. This year was incredibly busy. I seriously, Brail, and you know this, from probably around March to the end of the year, I traveled almost every week. But a part of that travel was individual trips with my kids, like just dad and one kid at a time, right? And I've had times where I've taken them out on dates and different things of that nature, and one-on-one time with me. And I want to continue doing those kind of things where we get to have those conversations. And we were at dinner, man, in the last week or two, and my kids start opening up, like just talking about the best day of their lives. And my daughter started, and she was like, "Man, the best day of my life was when I was with Daddy in Kansas City." And they were like, "Why?" The other two was like, "Why?" It was because you did this or that. They were like, she's like, "No, I just got to spend a long time with Daddy." And then each kid replicated what was the best day of their life, and each one pointed out a time of just one-on-one time with me. And as I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Trisha, right? And I'm just like, and I know they can say whatever. Like, you ain't replacing mom. Mom is is the, like.
That's for sure.
You can say whatever.
That's
but
for sure.
When it come down to it, yeah. But just hearing like that, the impact that it made, and it's not always what you think it is, and hearing this account, man, it's just, I don't want somebody to have to explain to my kids either that I love them. Look, that happened. My dad, when my dad passed, in the last year of his life, I believe I was the only family member to go visit him, because he was just at odds with his siblings. And so he passed after not too long of me visiting, so I didn't even do a funeral service. I was like, "Look, yeah, I lived out of 2 states away. Yeah. Y'all lived in town. I don't really see a need to do a funeral service for people who couldn't make it across town to reconcile accounts." Right. A funeral, I feel, is for the living, is about closure. And as kind of the executor, I had the closure I needed as his only child. I had the closure I needed. And I didn't need a service for that. Right. But my grandfather, his dad died a little bit after my dad, like within a month or two of my dad. And so I'm in Dallas for that funeral. And people come, "Well, your dad," and I'm like, "Yeah." Like, yeah, I know that. And I know he had his struggles. You didn't have to explain.
I'm good.
I was good, in a good place at the end. Now, it took a lot.
Some work to get there.
But I was in a good place when it ended. Yeah. And I have that hope for everybody. I know there's a lot of rough relationships out there. Even the recent passing of Rob Reiner and his wife. And as I just even heard a podcast this morning that I listened to of his son had a really troubled past. And one of the last projects that Rob worked on was actually this project with his son, because his son was actually on the recovery from SUD issues, substance use issues. And they worked on a project together, and Rob talked about how that had been one of his favorite projects in his life, because working on that with his son gave them a lot of time to work through some of the things with them. And hearing stories like that, man, of just, and yeah, his son, there was another lapse, and that's what led to some of the things going on, presumably. And it's hard. It's hard to sit in that space as a parent, and you wonder what impact each and every word and decision and everything else that you having on your kids.
And it is that. It's the words, the decision, it's the culmination. It's small moments. It's not always the big moments, it's the small moments. The other day, I told you this. The other day, my daughter said, hey, she had her mom call me when they were on their way. I was leaving here from work. She had her mom call me. She said, Daddy, I said, what's up, baby? And she was just getting off of school. She said, can we go get Chick-fil-A? I said, calling me about Chick-fil-A? What is happening? And her mom got on the phone. She said that she had been doing really well in her concerts this year, and we never celebrated her by going out, so she wanted to go out to eat the Chick-fil-A. And I cracked up laughing. I was like, you know what, baby? I said, Sam, we got the money? She said, yeah. I said, go ahead. We can get some Chick-fil-A. But I laughed. But for us, growing up, we didn't celebrate a whole lot. I had birthday parties, I had strawberry cake, strawberry ice cream, strawberry cupcakes. It was all strawberry. That was my thing. Had 4 or 5 friends over, call it good. But we didn't celebrate a whole lot. Things were tight. And that was just not something that we prioritized as a family. We did a few things, a few times a year. We didn't celebrate a lot. When I came to this church, it was the first time I heard. It hit me today. When I came to this church, it was the first time I realized as Christians, celebration should be a part of our culture.
Yeah.
And so I went on this mission. You know me, I adopt things quickly. So
Yeah.
when I see something, I'm like, that's good. It's part of my life now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I adopted that. I'm like, Halloween, I don't celebrate Halloween, but we had a Halloween block party. Okay, we celebrate Halloween now. I just started picking up things and adding them. And, I have 2 kids who are mine but adopted. And then the younger 2 are fully my biological kids.
Yeah.
And so my daughters were 8 by the time they came in here, but the younger, they grew up here in this culture that we're building. And to hear her say like, hey, we missed one. We're supposed to be celebrating. I did a good job. This is what we're supposed to be doing. It hit me away because it was like, we're doing it.
Yep.
The way she sees life is not how I saw life, but the way that I wanted my family to see life.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen through just an event. That happened through every day seeing stuff and going, okay, we're adopting the girls today. How are we going to celebrate? Okay, this happened with my team. How are we going to celebrate? Okay, our church did this. How are we going to celebrate? And me not even knowing what to do. Me rolling over to the dollar shop and like, I'm just get some balloons. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but it's important to celebrate. So I'm going to come home with these balloons, and that's what we're going to do. And it's just every day, just building that culture every day to where now, and I named my daughter Legacy, and now I get to see, this is my legacy.
Yeah.
Like, this is my legacy, bro. And it's like when we, as fathers, as family members, when we're not there, because I've seen other relationships play out differently.
Yeah.
And those fathers don't know their kids, bro. Like, I get to spend more time with their kids than they do. And I know when they talk to them, I know how they talk about them. I'm like, you don't actually know your kids.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the small moments. You got the updates. Yeah. You got the big to-dos. But you didn't get the, when we wake up every day and they're cranky, you didn't get the, man, when they're hungry, how do they react? You didn't get the, oh, man, how do they react to disappointment? How do they react to when they succeed and when they get the big head? And you don't
me
get
and
all
you've been
those
on
things,
that,
man.
yeah, me and you've been on that spot because I was just in a situation where it was like, I come pick you up on these designated weekends or this or that. And you're like, and I pay child support. Like, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And there's still a piece that's missing. And I like when you talk about legacy, it's not just like even the celebrating the fun things, but it's also like, I know I caught you and Jill by surprise on Sunday after service. I stay old time at work, and you get ready to bounce out, and you heard me say something. You like, hold up, I got to come around here.
Yeah.
And I was telling them, I was like, you know, I was the least organized person in my family.
Crazy.
And y'all were like, what? I was like, oh yeah, I was the one. They were like, man, you need to get your stuff together. You got to get your stuff together. Like, you just look at you. Just look at you. Like, you know, and y'all were like, what? No.
Can't be.
And I was like, yeah, fam, and this is not just from my mom, my single mom. This is like also from my single dad. And they were like, you got to get your stuff together. You got to know your details. You got to know your stuff. All that matters. And I was like, okay. All right, I got to get my life together. It was like, I got to get right with Jesus, and I got to get the details of my life together, right? And so, yeah, like, that's the environment I was bred in, and you were like,
See it now.
I got all the context.
That makes things make a lot of sense.
I was like, yeah, that was the environment I was bred in. Was like, hey, fam, you ain't gonna make it. Like, you ain't gonna make it, man. Look at yourself. And it was just like, so for instance, here's how I want to encourage even those that are single. I was raised in a single parent household with my mom. And so very early on, I would walk myself up to the barbershop from where we live. Take money, I would go to the barbershop, I would sit there until there was no appointments back then. And I would sit there until it was my time, and I would listen to all the older black men speak. One time I was in there, I was a young boy. There was an older black gentleman who was an Army vet that was in there. We stayed in a neighborhood where there's a veterans hospital in our neighborhood. My first job at 14 was at the veterans hospital. And he said that his daddy taught him to learn how to drink coffee black because as he was preparing to go off to enlist, he said, because you might not always have sugar and cream available, so you need to know how to do that. So when I got to the point of learning, like starting to drink coffee, I forced myself to be able to drink it black. That lesson carried over, and you've seen this in this, like, I have forced myself to be able to live with a lot less than I had available to me, and to be able to operate in my job and everything else that I had available to me, just in case I didn't have it. I learned that as a little boy sitting in a barbershop from some other black men sharing their experiences. And those are the kind of things that we can be a part of that you will never know. I can't tell you that gentleman's name, but I can still see my young elementary self sitting in those seats waiting and seeing this collective of older gentlemen in my neighborhood speak and me soaking it up. That's a part of legacy. Those are the things I hope we don't miss, and that's why we need men more involved than ever in our nonprofit programs, in our churches, and things like bridge builders, and all those in our schools, because there's going to be some stuff that you just absorb because of the environment you in. That's caught more than it's taught.
In small moments.
But what says you when you hear that clip from Wordwood Jr. and you hear this conversation? Where is it hitting you? Where are the legacy defining moments in your life? Like, comment, share. We would love to hear from you in the intersection.